Hi guys, it's G-Economics here, and I just want to carry on the theme with regard to marginal utility, satisfaction and indifference curves. And I've already explained in a previous video that indifference curves cannot intersect, and we've explained the reason why that is. And so here I'm also just wanting to draw to your attention the fact that when you draw your indifference curves, normally they will be downward sloping from left to right. And as you can see by the title here, indifference curves cannot slope upwards. And I've drawn you an indifference curve here which is sloping upwards. So if we remind ourselves what an indifference curve shows us, it shows us the combination of the two goods in this instance between which the consumer is indifferent. So one bundle will yield the same satisfaction as another bundle on the same curve, although the quantities of both goods will obviously be different. In this particular instance, here we have this amount of cola, C1, and this amount of apples, A1. And then we have this amount of cola at point B, call that C2. And we have this amount of apples at A2. Now, this could not be an indifference curve, and the reason that it cannot be an indifference curve sloping upwards is because obviously at point B we have an increase in the amount of cola being consumed and an increase in the amount of apples being consumed. Now, if it is the case that the consumer who chooses a point on an indifference curve is indifferent between points A and B, then clearly this cannot be the case, because we always assume that the consumer enjoys consuming more than less. So if we're enjoying consuming more than less, so B rather than A, the consumer cannot be indifferent between A and B. So these 2 points A and B would actually have to lie on two separate indifference curves, which might look something like that, IC1 and IC2. And again, this is very similar to the reason why the curves cannot intersect, because it is violating the assumption that consumers prefer more to less. We have to make that decision when we are drawing our indifference curves downwards from left to right, because when we move from IC1 to IC2, we are assuming therefore that the consumer is enjoying the fact that they are consuming more of cola and more of apples. Whereas if the curve was sloping upwards, we cannot say that the consumer is indifferent between A and B, because we would have to assume they would rather be at B than A, so B couldn't be on the same curve. Anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the reason why indifference curves cannot slope upwards. Bye for now.